Welcome everybody to the Hutchinson City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. We'll call the meeting to order. Approve the council agenda. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Mayor, Council, I don't have any additions or corrections at this time.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Dave, second by Mary to approve the agenda. Roll call. Mary?
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
Steve? Aye. Dave?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Invocations from Living Waters Church.
Mayor, we don't have anybody here in attendance to give the invocation.
All right, we'll just move on then. Pledge of Allegiance, Dave will lead us tonight. Please stand and hand over your heart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Dave. Recognitions of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Does anybody have anything tonight? Alrighty, we have a resolution underneath there. Resolution number 15216. Resolution accepting $1,000 donation from the Hutchinson Hockey Association and $250 donated from an anonymous donor for Slapshot sculpture. Do you have a motion to accept?
Make a motion to accept. I'll second that.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad to accept the donations. Mary, roll call. Mary?
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Dave?
I'm going to say aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, public comment. Matt, do we have anybody present?
No, nobody is present to address the council.
Thank you. We have approval of minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes of September 8th, 2020, and the budget workshop meeting of September 8th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve both those meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Steve to approve the minutes. Mary, roll call.
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, we have the consent agenda. This will be done by one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. A is approval of resolution number 15211, resolution to sell at auction surplus property, and that's from Creekside, the stacking conveyor and the power rack. B is resolution number 15217, resolution adopting finding and facts and reason for approval of conditional use permit to allow a metal fabrication shop at 115 Erie Street Southeast in a 1C zone district with favorable planning commission recommendation. C is resolution number 15218, resolution adopting finding of facts and reason for approval of the final plat for West Elementary located at 805 and 875 School Road Southwest with favorable planning commission recommendation. D is resolution number 219, resolution appointing election judges for November 3rd, 2020 general election. E is approval of issuing a massage license to Angela Brandel of Viva Nova LLC. F is approval of issuing short-term gambling license to the Hutchinson Wrestling Club Incorporated on June 1st, 2021. Consideration for, or G is consideration for approval of board reappointments. Under there is Michelle Kiefer for the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee to 2023. Caroline Ulrich to the Library Board to April of 2023. Morgan Baum to the Public Arts Commission to August 2023. Kim Pearson to the Police Commission to May of 2023. H is claims appropriation contract payments, Register A. Is there anything anybody wants pulled off for discussion?
Mayor, I'd ask that you pull item D. We have a revised resolution.
And I had a question on B, Mr. Mayor.
I'll make a motion to approve the balance.
I'll second.
Gary, you're on mute.
Sorry. Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve the balance. Roll call, Mary.
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Steve, B.
Just had a question. I don't know if Dan's available, but
he's
just
on.
one, you know, with that house just to the north of this property and the change of use, I was wondering if noise levels got brought up at the Planning Commission. I know we do have a noise ordinance, so there is some protection there, but wasn't sure if how much noise would get created in a fab shop like that, and if they're aware that there is the ordinance too.
Sure. The noise didn't get brought up at the Planning Commission meeting. We didn't have any of the neighbors there. As you noted, the noise ordinance does cover that. We're not anticipating that there'll be a significant amount of noise at all. The activity is confined to inside the building, and it's probably not going to be much different at all than before. Obviously it was buses, but there was a lot of in and out with the buses and things, and this is going to be inside only. So we're not concerned with that at this point. Again, the ordinance would cover that if it is an issue.
All right, thank you. Just thought I'd ask.
Sure,
Make a
thank you.
motion to approve. Thanks.
I'll second it. Motion by Steve, second by myself to approve. Roll call, Mary,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. D, Matt.
Mayor and Council, I believe Melissa handed out a revised resolution to you. There was just a couple more names added to that list, and so we just wanted to make sure that the revised resolution was taken in consideration.
The motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad to approve. Roll call, Mary,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, we have consent agenda 2, claims appropriation contract payments, Register B. I have a check on there for my business, so I'll be abstaining.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve Register B. Roll call, Mary,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
and I'm abstaining, so motion carries. All right, we do have a public hearing, but, Matt, do you just wanna, what do you wanna move on to?
Well, we've got about 20 minutes to our public hearing, so we could probably move down to item number 10.
All right, review a residential leaf vacuum. I can hear everybody cheering already.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's hard to believe it's only 3 weeks away from starting this service back up again. As you look around, there's few trees starting to change colors, and so we're just want to get everybody ready for another season. 2020 will be the 11th season that we've had this service. And so just a few items that I'd like to talk about. And first would be what the property owners and residents can do to make this program successful. The number one thing they can do is have the leaves out in neat rows up against the back of the curb the night that their garbage is picked up. Equally important is to make sure that vehicles are not parked in the way. And we have put together a schedule that's available online on the city's website. And we ask that folks take note of when the season ends and to make sure there aren't any leaves left on the street past the last day of service, which is the Monday of Thanksgiving week for the garbage service, the Friday before the week of Thanksgiving. So again, the season starts October 13th for the Monday garbage route of October 12th. It goes 6 weeks and ends on the Monday of Thanksgiving, like I had said earlier. One of the things that is a big deal is if people use a bagging mower, we just ask that you please raise the deck up to collect the leaves, then go back to mow your yard. When we get heavy green grass in the windrows, it shocks the fan and it can cause damage to the equipment clutches and the drives. So we ask that people keep the green grass out of there. If we see a lot of green grass in a pile, I've instructed the operators to pick up and go past that property. The service has really hit its stride over the years. I think we've seen a plateau and a leveling off of the amounts that we're picking up. So we anticipate, again, roughly 750 tons of leaves and in about 267 loads. So we average about 2.8 tons per load. And all I can tell you about a ton of leaves is that they weigh 2,000 pounds. So in most years, the majority of the leaves, about 70% of the leaves are actually picked up over a 3-week period, typically in weeks 2, 3, and 4. The first week is generally light and the last 2 weeks are generally lighter than the rest of the year. I know people have, there's a few leaves laying on the ground now, but I can guarantee you that weeks 2, 3, and 4 will be the heaviest. They've been that way every year. Occasionally, because of the heavier weeks, we do have a need for overtime. We typically put in about 589 hours of time on this project, with about 14 of those, or 2.4%, being overtime. However, we've seen that number drop in the last few years by doing some changes to our scheduling. We rent 3 tractors for 200 hours each to tow the 3 leaf vacuums, and this has worked well over the years. Those tractors are retained for the winter and are used for snow removal, about another 100 hours of use. We anticipate it taking about, again, 589 75 hours of regular pay, 14 hours of overtime. You do the math on that, it ends up being, and including the benefits, it ends up being a service labor rate of between $40 and $41 an hour. For safety, all of our vacuums are equipped with mirrors, the tractors are. We have backup cameras, we have warning signs, and all three of the primary leaf vacuums now have top exhaust hoods, which makes the trailer narrower and therefore easier to see when you do need to back up. The spare unit we use still uses the side exhaust, so it's a little bit wider. The good news is there have been very, very few and only minor incidents during the last 10 years of service. Several of the years have been free of incidents, a testament to the people understanding what's going on and also the operators being extra careful. We do keep one leaf vacuum as a spare unit, and this has proven to be critical over the years. It seems every year there's some sort of a service repair issue with the vacuums, so having that spare allows the service to continue when one of the primary vacuums is in for a repair. The spare also has been used to supplement the others during the heavier weeks, and that obviously results in less overtime or less hours. Maintenance of the vacuums will be a little more of a struggle this year, as our mechanic has resigned effective on Friday. So we'll be needing to be extra vigilant on the maintenance of these machines. Most years, at the end of the season, there are between 75 and 100 houses that get notices to remove leaves after the season has ended. That's just so you get a perspective on what the numbers are. It's about 1.7 to 2.4% of the homes. So it's a pretty good rate actually. Obviously, if the end of the season is cold or snowy, we have less of a problem with that. In case, I put together some basic information and included for you, and that kind of highlights the anticipated cost of the service is $32 per residential garbage customer. And in conclusion, I guess I would like to thank the public for cooperating with us. And I would also like to thank our public works staff for their dedication. Every year is a continuous effort to improve the service and to make it as efficient as we possibly can. And we continue to see on our end that this is a very highly valued service provided by the city. And we look forward to another successful year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody may have regarding the service. So.
Say, John, sorry, Mary. John, can you talk about like the size of twigs that can be in the leaf pile and not to exceed,
Sure.
Maybe the size of what the diameter, like a pen size, or I don't know what?
Sure. Yeah, sticks are an enemy, especially if they're longer than 12 inches, because they can get jammed up, and then the leaves collect on the sticks, and then you got to get out and unplug everything. And so the rule of thumb to use is if you can't move the stick with the leaf blower, don't put it in the pile. That's a pretty good unit of measure. If it's something that you have to pick up and break, it's probably too big. That's what we have other alternatives for that available, through the other cart there. So.
All right, thanks, John. I think Mary has something for you.
John, I just wanted to say that everyone I talked to is totally in love with that service. I mean, it is a great service that we as a city provide to all the people. You might just want to say, give that date again when they can start doing this so that they aren't already starting before. You said
Right.
3 weeks from now, so,
Correct. October 13th is the first day for the Monday garbage route of the 12th. Right. So
Right.
October 13th. So hang out few more weeks. We'll get going. So.
right. And another thing I noticed, when I'm out walking, I notice, people need to adopt a drain. I'm just amazed at how many drains are plugged. You know,
Yes.
I mean, if you live in a neighborhood and you're on a corner or you're close to it, just go clean it out so that when it rains, the stuff goes down there.
There you go. Thank you for that. And
All
we,
right.
and for the most part, people do a great job, and we very much appreciate it. We do try to get out occasionally and do it, but it's a little more of a challenge this time of year, particularly as we don't have a lot of we don't have any seasonal help at this point, other than a couple guys mowing. So.
Right. Thank you.
And as we know, that's just water going down the drain, right?
Correct. Yes. Correct.
Are we sending out anything anymore? I mean, here's a couple good reminders, with the grass and the sticks and, not putting them out ahead of time. So I don't know if we still do that ahead of the season.
We've utilized, the Facebook in the past, also the website, try to do a press release through the various media outlets. We have not done for a few years anything tied to the billing, like a stuffer or anything like that. That's not a possibility we could look at, but again, we haven't done that for the last couple of years. So, but we have used the others.
Anything else for John? Thank you, John.
You bet. We'll get going October 13th. Thank you guys very much.
Well, Matt, what do you think? We got 9 minutes left. You think that's enough for the improvement, the wastewater deal?
Sounds like they probably can. So yeah, sure. If you want to jump on to item number 11.
All right, review of wastewater treatment facility headwork improvement preliminary design.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Like Gary just explained, what we wanted to do this evening is just get some information out with respect to the wastewater treatment facility headworks improvements. This is a project that's been in development and conceived, identified quite a while ago, and Tim Gratke, I'll turn it over to him shortly. He can briefly explain why this project was identified, what needs it's going to address going forward if it is indeed delivered. What's in your packet is a lot of information with respect to the preliminary design effort administered by Nero Engineering, which has done a fair amount of wastewater engineering work for us in recent years. There's a overview memo, basis of design, they called it, a preliminary layout, a couple of drawings, some cost estimation info. You might have noted or seen, obviously this is a very costly, technically involved project. We're looking at an estimated cost of just over $5 million at this point. And then there's more technical information with respect to operational strategies, i.e. the ultimate programming of the new systems, and then some hydraulic calcs. And really with that, this is just the preliminary design. The next step is obviously moving into the final design, which staff is also proposing that Nero Engineering administers. We're hoping to bring a final design proposal with a fee identified from Nero Engineering at the next council meeting to keep this project moving along as quickly as possible. So with that, unless there's any specific questions for me, I will turn it over to Tim, and he can share a little bit more about why this project has been identified and what it's going to address. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, as Kent said, this project's been in the works for quite a few years. Really, it was necessitated by the way the wastewater is received by the wastewater treatment plant now. Since the addition of the MBR, the headworks building was really added onto and kept as two parallel streams. And with no real means to cross in between the two processes, should one process need to go down for some maintenance or some other type of reason. The other necessity is that the original grit removal system for the ditch, oxidation ditch process has not worked for many years, since 5 years ago before I arrived on scene. It hasn't been functioning. And also the screens on that side are not self-cleaning like the MBR side drum screens. And that sometimes is very problematic with middle of the night times where those screens may become plugged up. And then we have overflows and a possibility of a violation to the MPCA regulatory limits. So we've invoked Neuro Engineering, who's worked really closely with the plant in the past, to help design a new means of bringing that wastewater into the plant, evenly distributing it through a set of new screens, very much like the MBR self-cleaning drum screens, and then totally through a new grit removal system. And then from that point, distributing it to the processes after it's first been screened and the grit removed from it. So if it goes to the equalization basin, which now it goes untreated to, and then reclaimed back into the process without treatment, now it will go to that process after being fully treated. And we can have a full control over the split as to where we send our wastewater to which process. That, for the most part, is it in a nutshell. There are other aspects to this where there are other projects out there like the SCADA system needing to be upgraded. Those will be incorporated into this project at the time of the project, plus new roof being needed. So we'll take advantage of that time in order to make those repairs also. So I guess now I'll open it up to any questions you may have on this project.
Yeah, Tim, just wondering, how do you keep the process working while you're actually doing these upgrades like that?
Sure, Steve. But for the most part, this is going to be done under flow. There will have to be some bypass piping. We did do some bypass piping 5 years ago when we had that clogged valve that we reused last year again when we had another clogged valve clogged with rags. So a good thing that we had forethought to put all the piping in. There will be points where, yeah, we'll have to use that, and there will be staging and phasing. So some portions will have to be upgraded previous to others. Part of the project is upgrading the EQ system, the equalization basin, so that we have full use of that. So we could totally bypass the headworks building using the EQ, which we don't have right now. And that will be necessary for periods of time while the new headworks distribution piping is being implemented and fabricated and put into place.
I noticed just with the cost estimates, they said just depending on the requirements for some of the steel and the valves and piping, you know, that could be raised costs. Is that a requirement, or is that only if try for federal funding, and then is federal funding actually an option for something like this? So just asking.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of confusion there, Steve. I think it should have been worded state funding. It's actually PFA. loan funding that we've secured before for water and wastewater, the plant improvements many, many years ago. I believe that was just a typo in essence. So yeah, it'd be that state funding, and then that triggers the steel requirements. At this point, we're hoping that the estimate is on the high side, and that'll get more tuned in when the final design is delivered. We're hoping, like other aspects of construction, that we're in a very favorable environment, and that's why we want to keep this moving along, like I alluded to earlier, and get the final design completed, and hopefully be bidding this in February, March timeframe. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're going to avoid those requirements, and working with obviously city finance staff. Once we have the final estimate, look at the funding scenario that'll be brought forward once we get the actual bid.
Yeah, I was thinking about the state funding, but it sounds like interest rates are supposed to stay low for a few years, is what they're saying. So we might not even need that, would we? Potentially.
No, yeah, Andy and I had a brief conversation a few weeks ago. Exactly, Steve. Why go through PFA when I think we could do a wastewater revenue bond, a bond against our enterprise fund, and probably get a very similar interest rate without the stipulations of the PFA funding. If bonding is needed, if a revenue bond is needed at all, depending on what time frame the project is delivered over, we'll have a better idea on how that time frame will play out. Like Tim mentioned, the work will be sequenced, staged, and maybe it plays out over a year and a half, and ultimately, and that just puts us in a favorable position to leverage our reserve funds over that period of time and pay for it.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that, just looking at the number that they had, but then the other projects within the CIP. So it's a pretty big number then when you put everything together. And so wasn't quite sure. And that's the other part of it is, where's the rate study come into, that part of it too.
Exactly. And that's a piece of this. I just stress these are estimated numbers. Mr. Reed has seen this number. It did start some red lights in his mind. So, he's already commented. We've had a brief discussion today, and at the end of the day, we need to get the design out. We need to get it out for bids. Put us in the best position possible, and get an actual number, and then move on from there. If the number is high relative to our CIP, it may impact the delivery of other projects on the wastewater front, and the timing of them moving into the future.
Are there options to phase? I mean, within the report, it talked about recommendation of doing everything or bidding the whole project, but.
Yeah, I would say really the options are within the context of the project. Yeah, Tim and I, we had a lengthy meeting with Nero a few weeks ago, and really we determined it's not worthwhile to try to dissect this scope of work. And it comes down to over what time frame this could be delivered within the context of one project. And like I said, that might be favorable, and that may become a piece of the funding approach. Is how we prescribe the contractor to deliver the job.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Anything else for Tim or Kent? All right, thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you.
We do have a public hearing. We'll go back to Kent, huh? Is this Kent's deal?
Yep, Mayor Council, it's 6 o'clock, just after 6 o'clock, and so I'll hand it back over to Kent.
Yes, long-awaited assessment hearing for the Highway 15 Main Street project. At this point, obviously with the pandemic going on, We felt it was necessary to, well, we're almost required to administer this hearing at this point to get the final assessment notices out in mid-October. Noting that there's been a decision made, and I believe this has been discussed with council, we will not be collecting we'll collect assessments, but we will not be administering the assessment term until 2022. So taking next year off with everything involved on the pandemic front, and that was a decision made by administration and finance, and obviously is favorable to adjacent property owners. So that's a good thing, but we'll still send out a final notice. We'll still give property owners the option to make a payment at this point in time. They're by no means obligated. Then next October in 2021, they'll again get a final notice that really sets the deadline for any sort of partial payment or full payment in mid-November timeframe, as usual for assessments. And then after that point, the remainder of the assessments on the books unpaid will be forwarded on to the county to be administered over a term, like I mentioned, of year 2022 through 2031. Can't believe we're talking about 2031, but yeah. So with that, yeah, I don't know how much we need to get into project-wise. Obviously, the project is well underway. The construction's gone very well, and I think it's a testament that nobody is here this evening, I guess, from a property owner standpoint, to you know, dispute an assessment or to maybe communicate some negativity with respect to the project construction. So seeing that, nothing's changed. The assessment rates we've spoken about from the beginning: $28 a front foot, $2,500. That's for the street assessment, and then $2,500 respectively for the sewer, sanitary sewer, and water services. Those remain. Those are within the assessment roll. Yeah, and with that, we did make a few revisions based on some construction dynamics. So we have a handful of property that their assessment changed. That we did send that out via email, I guess mid-afternoon or so today. So what I would recommend is that that council approves the revised assessment roll that was provided earlier this afternoon.
What type of changes?
Basically, we have a service that was upsized at the request of a property owner, a water service. So that goes from 2,500 to 3,500. We have 2 sanitary sewer situations where what we thought was going to be a stub was actually tied into. So their future connection fee turned into an active assessment. And then we have five of them that the water service was stubbed to their property and not connected into. So there's a stub that exists, so that we had assumed that they were serviced from the highway, the Main Street side at this point in time, when indeed they're actually serviced from the alley, and we weren't knowledgeable of that. We weren't able to find a curb stop, a shut-off valve in the alley for those properties, but they are indeed serviced from the alley. Or they're drawing water off their neighbors, I don't know, but plumbing, but they're serviced in some manner rather than from the Main Street highway side of the property.
So the sewer things, that was actually a hookup requested by the property owners?
Yep, they're knowledgeable of that. That was discovered during construction and the conversation was held. And what we're going to be doing is sending a revised notice to all of those 8 properties. And if there's any concerns, questions, we'll get those fully addressed prior to them getting the initial final notice, like I alluded to in mid-October.
I noticed there's a couple with front foot credits, and then, I didn't know. Can you remind me what that's based on?
Yep, that is, yeah, they should all be 132 feet for the
Yeah.
most part. I'm just scanning, yeah, there's a couple. That's based on the corner credit policy. So if they are on a corner, they're assessed for their short side, which on the old typical standard city lot is 66 feet by 66 feet wide by 132 feet deep. Thus, we would assess them on their short side. It may or may not be 66 feet. Downtown, it might be 22 feet for that matter. But then we reduce the long side of their property 132 feet.
So what about like some of the properties that had, well, like Fifth Avenue in Maine? Was that all taken into account, the different projects and assessments that were paid?
Exactly. Yeah, we do the math for people. We're obviously able to identify where the property is going to get hit by two, separate projects. Similar situation on South Grade Road, and Merrill and Sunset and Harrington and those streets is currently playing out. So yeah, definitely, Steve, we take a look, and if that corner credit is going to be more favorable to the property owner on the short side due to the assessment rate being higher on the short side of the lot, we'll then apply to the short side.
Thanks, Kent.
Yep, no problem.
Any other questions for Kent? Otherwise, I'll open it up for public comment.
I don't believe you're going to get any.
We have one individual here. Did you want?
Yeah, there's only one person I don't recognize, I guess. Looks like we're good.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
Motion by Chad, second by Dave to close the public hearing. Roll call. Mary?
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have a resolution underneath there, resolution number 15220, resolution adopting assessments.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Mary to approve. Roll call. Mary?
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Kent.
Yeah, I guess briefly here, I'm going to be leaving after this item, so I don't know if council has any Highway 15 questions for me or anything anything for that matter, I guess. On the Main Street project front, things are moving along. They're well ahead of schedule. The paving on the south end was completed yesterday. Now they're grinding in the stripes, locations, and starting the striping, pavement markings. Downtown here, signal work seems to be almost completed. They're still working on the colored sidewalk. The colored sidewalk, I'll give it to the contractor, looks pretty good out there. It's a little bit on the pinkish side, but that's what happened on the field test over by the construction shack. What they're required to do is put on a second coat of sealer, and once they did that, it did brown it up quite a bit. It's the same pigment utilized at the same rate that was put down 15 years ago, and other areas of town for that matter, Washington Street or Washington Avenue 10 years ago. the variability is with the actual concrete. Concrete itself is not a consistent variable when it comes to when you pigment it. So there's some variation to be had there, but hoping that it'll darken up and look a little bit more brown once they get that second coating of sealer on it in a week or so. Other
Will
than
we
that,
be, will we be sealing the other sections, and would that help match it a little better?
yeah, the other sections, we're looking at, John's looking at acquiring some equipment, so actually city staff can do that into the future. So we're hoping to do that next year, early on next year. He's really started to scope out what that all entails after we had a contractor do a little bit of that work last year and realized what they charge for that to do it right. So yeah, no, I think it'll be more consistent. I'm just, like I said, when they put that second coat on the test run, it seemed to brown it up a bit. But like we've learned over time, if you don't reseal it every 5 years, give or take, it does turn pinkish, I guess, in color. And then once you reseal it, it does bring the brown back a bit. At this point, I'm hoping that, and no firm dates from MnDOT or the contractor. There's plenty of moving parts still remaining, but if things go well, maybe the week of the 5th or towards the end of the week of the 5th might be achievable to open up the roadway, but we'll see what happens.
Kent, is the bike path that goes in front of the brewery or the sidewalk, is that supposed to be a bike path, or is that supposed to be sidewalk? Like I had in my head that it was going to go to Linden, but it's just sidewalk from Linden south for quite a while. Yep. And maybe I just had in my head that I was wrong, but
no, that's a good question. In what you might have noticed out there, there's actually a gap between the new ped ramps on Linden, at the Linden intersection, the Brown intersection, and another one I'm forgetting. But what they did is they put the new ped ramps in, then they put in a patch of bituminous, a blacktop, tying into the old sidewalk. The city received a local project partnership grant to do that trail work a couple years or so ago. And then also that we had a sidewalk tied to that up on Highway 7, on the north side of 7, extending out towards American. And that grant, I think, is just short of $300,000. I received a call from MnDOT a month or so ago. It was within this current fiscal year for MnDOT. They want to push it out to next year. So basically from July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of 2021. And thus, I think what we're going to do is we're going to design that project and more than likely not bid it until next spring, early on. We basically have the design done. We were planning on, just squeezing it into the fiscal year that it was originally identified for. But MnDOT, no secrets, is gas tax dollars are going the wrong direction, I guess, from MnDOT's standpoint. So they're jockeying projects around, whether it's their projects or projects that are have funds committed to locals. So long answer to your question, Chad. Yes, it'll be a trail, but more than likely not until early summer, early midsummer next year.
And where will
Great.
that
Thank
actually
you.
go to?
That'll go from Linden to the south along the westerly side of the roadway to where the trail ends at Brown. I forget, or it's the next street south, next intersection.
next intersection south, I believe. Yeah, because I drive past the Linden intersection every day, obviously, and I was like, God, that ped ramp looks super wide, and I just had in my head that it was going to be a bike path, but clearly the sidewalk is not a bike path. So thank you for clarifying.
It's coming, and due to the grant funding, we couldn't put it in MnDOT's project. It just wasn't achievable from their process standpoint.
Chad brought up, I think maybe it was the last meeting or one of them recently, about the idea of having some pedestrian crossing warning lights installed at that Echo Brown intersection now. Is there any chance to do that? Maybe not as part of this, but in the future.
That's MnDOT's crossing. That's clearly established within our cooperative agreement. I don't know if you recall that. I believe that was a bone of contention to the very end. And really, yeah, it's a bad idea. There's no disputing that. Local MnDOT staff realizes that, district staff, albeit their central office ADA staff won out, and the resolution is to put in the ramps, the curb cuts, the little bit of sidewalk connection there from on the by the Echo Street side of that crossing. And it will not be marked, it will not be signed, it will not be lit with any sort of flasher system, and that's how they've elected to address it. And hopefully it will not be utilized. You know, this is, yeah, obviously the biggest concern.
Kent, I see on the northbound lane, coming around the last curve before, you go straight on Main Street. They're putting a turn lane in there.
Yep.
So they're gonna take the no turn sign off the post.
Yeah, that should go away. It is still there, but yeah, that should get removed. Yep. Yeah, no, that was a design consideration based on the city's input that to get that turn lane firmly established there to turn onto Linden.
Well, hopefully they'll get the striping down and that'll help out a lot.
Yep, no, the striping looks good on that. Saw it earlier this afternoon, drove through there.
That intersection's a disaster. Just driving it every day, like watching people navigate it and almost hit each other. It's tough to watch.
Yeah. No,
Maybe.
I think this will clean up the northbound, movement. There's no disputing people are still taking lefts, especially with the, the evolution of the brewery there and, driving some traffic to the rear of their property.
All right, anything else for Kent? Thanks, Kent.
Yep, thank you much.
All
Need a
right,
motion to approve the assessment? Did we do that? We closed the hearing, I know.
I thought we did, or didn't we?
Yep, we did.
Okay, just making sure. Thanks.
All right. Moving on, new business, resolution number 15215, resolution supporting Hutchinson Utilities Commission's proposed rate changes.
Mayor and council, you may recall at the last meeting, General Manager Jeremy Carter was here to address the council regarding their proposed rate structure change. And the council asked that staff put together a resolution to, I guess, formally sign off on that proposed rate change. Like I said, there's not a requirement to, but I think it's something that past councils have done. And so that's what's in front of you tonight for consideration.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve the resolution. Roll call, Mary?
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
I had one thing.
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, when Jeremy was here, he had made a comment that they'd probably do another rate study, or cost of service study, not a rate study, before the next or the third phase. So I would just like to make sure, put in the minutes that that'd be good to do that, because, the fixed charge, they went up a little bit from this time from what the original was. So just be good to do that. Otherwise, it's great.
All right, do we have to amend the motion then? Do we have that language?
No, we'll just make sure.
No,
you note
it's
that
in the
minutes.
minutes.
Okay, all right, Steve,
Aye.
Dave,
Right.
aye, motion carries. Assessment of the Highfield Apartment Project, assignment of Highfield Apartments.
Mayor, Council, hand it over to City Attorney Mark Sepora to address you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a series of documents dealing with the Highfield Apartments development by Quick Trip. I think you're all familiar with them. And I know there was an extensive memo that was included in your council packet about this, but just to recap it, back in 2016, the council approved the development agreement and the issuance of some tax increment financing to help facilitate the development of those apartment buildings there. And the project isn't quite done, but it's getting substantially there. And the developer of the project would now like to sell the project to a buyer. So it's a little bit confusing. We have Highfield Apartments of Hutchinson selling the project to Highfield Properties of Hutch. But before you tonight is a series of documents that will facilitate the sale of the project to Highfield Properties while still making the new buyer and to some extent the developer on the hook to make sure they're in compliance with all of the provisions of the development agreement that was issued at that time. I mentioned there's a series of documents for you to approve. The most significant one is the approval of the assignment of the development agreement to Highfield Properties. Something that we've done in the past. And as I mentioned, it's going to be an opportunity to have the buyer responsible for all the provisions of the development agreement. The other documents for your consideration tonight is a subordination agreement that's going to be subordinating the requirements of that development agreement to the mortgage that the buyer is taking out with Wings Financial. Some ancillary agreements, or pardon me, some ancillary documents that they're asking to approve are, you'll notice there's a series of documents called allonge. That's basically a fancy word of saying an endorsement provision for the existing TIF notes. They're also asking City Council approval for the assignment of the TIF notes themselves. An interesting development, as you noticed in the memorandum that was done by Dorsey and Whitney. Unfortunately, Wings Financial has lost the existing TIF notes that they had in their possession. So as part of the action for the council tonight is to approve the cancellation of those lost TIF notes and to reauthorize the issuance of those TIF notes for the benefit of the buyer of the project. And lastly, you should have been handed out prior to the meeting an estoppel certificate document, which is a 1.5 page document that basically says that the city is certifying that to today's date, the developer has complied with all the provisions of the development agreement, and that the city would not be making any claims against the developer unless something that was unknown to the city as of today's date would come up into the future. I've had an opportunity to talk to Dan Jokum and Ken Exner. Both of those individuals believe that they are in compliance with all of their obligations under that development agreement up to today's date. So along with the other documents that are contained in the packet, I'd ask that you approve this estoppel certificate agreement as well. So long story short, it's an opportunity to allow the project to continue for the benefit of this buyer by still allowing the city to have some leverage under the development agreement that it's already issued to the developer. I'd ask that you approve the documents.
Mark, as part of the developers agreement or the TIF agreement, there's a certain number of units that are required to be subsidized? Is that still carry forward, and is that clear, in the developer's agreement?
Yep, it is a requirement for the buyer of the development to make sure that that ratio is maintained.
And how do we know that's actually been done?
That I guess I don't have an answer for as far as who is verifying that. Certainly something that the city could and should be looking into to make sure that they are in compliance if they want to make sure they're tax increment financing.
Councilmember Cook, my understanding, and I know this was Rob, I think a year ago, the HRA does verify that there is an audit process that gets done to verify that those requirements of the TIF money is being met. And I would just note that the percentage for income is not based off of the development agreement. That's based off of the TIF agreement.
And then as far as those lost TIF notes, do we have copies of those, and that's how we reissuing them then or something?
I don't know if the city has copies of the old notes. The document before you basically is saying that they are lost, so they're going to be canceled, and the new ones are going to be reissued. And I can assure you, we will make sure that we do keep copies of those.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Motion by Chad, second by Steve. Any other discussion on it? Roll call. Mary,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mr. Sabora. Needle Point Bipolar Ionization Project for the city facility.
Mayor and council, we have Dan Jocum online, and he'll give the presentation on this proposed project.
Thanks, Matt. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. As you saw in your packet, we are looking at basically a system with the onset of COVID that can basically clean the air through an ionization process. I won't get too much into the science. There was a handout into your packet. Basically, it's an NBPI system. Basically, what it does is creates positive and negative ions and blows them out into the building. And to this, these ions get attached to any viruses or dust particles or what have you that's in the air, comes back through the system and gets cleaned out. So there's been a lot of discussion on this, obviously with COVID, and a lot of people talking about this. This technology has been out there for a number of years. However, it's with this, it's become out in the forefront more. We're looking at doing several city facilities. If you notice in the packet that I handed out, we've got, like I said, a lot of facilities. We've got 2 quotes to get the work done. We're also looking at having to upgrade our air handling unit at senior dining in order to accommodate this system. The unit over there was actually not the best anyway. In order to do this system, we need to have an upgraded unit. So I know there were some questions about other facilities that weren't on this list. However, from the city perspective, we felt these were the ones that we'd like to move forward with. I believe we did also have an updated quote that had looked at a couple, I think the water plant and the wastewater treatment plant were kind of not labeled correctly, and we have that addressed and fixed. So I guess with that, I'll open it up to any questions or comments you might have.
I guess I saw like the church wasn't added, but the depot is, right now the church isn't getting used much, but, before this, there's some weddings and performances and things like that there. So why wouldn't we utilize this there, since it's a small space and still have some benefit with that?
Sure. Actually, maybe Matt can comment. It was my understanding we were going to add the church onto the list. I'm not sure if something changed in the discussion, but that was my thought, is that we were gonna actually have the church added on.
Yeah,
And
that
now
was,
that
that was, sorry, Dan, that was the communication that JJ had relayed on to me. It was that was gonna be, so.
Looking at this, I wonder if it just got not added. I know, like you said, the depot's on here, but, you know, you can see the pricing, like for the depot, it's $830. So that's more of a smaller system. So theoretically, that would be money well spent for that church. And I would just suggest that, we could add that on there if it's all right with, Matt and the council.
Andy, did you have something to add? So,
Yeah, the copy I received of the revised quote does include the church at a total of $830. So from what I see, it's included within the latest quote.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Then
there,
I
okay.
know
I
I'd
see
ask,
it now too on the bottom. $830. Sorry about that.
then I'd ask Matt, you know, could HUC utilize some of the city funds if they wanted to add a system like this, or even Park Towers? But apparently Park has hot water heat, so it wouldn't work as well there. But
Yep.
maybe HUC.
and I will see, you know, I've run it past HUC. It sounds like they're looking at it. From some of their studies, they don't believe it's necessary based off their current system, but Jeremy did say they would reevaluate it. And I would actually anticipate that probably for your next meeting, there would be a consideration of allocating some money to HUC to cover some of their costs. We finally did get that request today. And so I think both Andy and I, we've had conversations as the EDA project is coming to an end. We'll have an update on kind of where we're at with funding, what's still available, and then some proposals to potentially assign that to a couple other projects, which may include money going to HUC. But the latest email I received this afternoon from Jeremy is that they're going to take a look at it again, but they're still kind of up in the air, sounds like.
Okay, just so they know it's available. So that's good.
Can we have a motion for this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Mary, second by Chad. Any other discussion? Roll call, Mary?
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, resolution number 15212, resolution setting the Hutchinson Housing and Redevelopment Authority 2020 preliminary tax levy.
Mayor and council, the next couple items on your agenda are all related to our preliminary tax levy. Those requests from HRA, the EDA, and then obviously the city's preliminary taxes. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Finance Director Andy Reed, and he'll kind of walk everyone through what's being proposed.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. So it's that time of year where we are required by state law to certify preliminary tax levies to the county.
Gary, can you mute your mic? Thanks.
So we have three levies tonight to run through that we will need to certify to the county. The first is the HRA, and then we'll also go through the EDA's levy, and then also the city's general and debt service funds. And just as a reminder, the final levies that we approve in December can be lower, but they can't be higher than these preliminary levies that we set tonight. So just keep that in mind. You know, it's perhaps better to stray on the side of conservatively high for these preliminary levies, just to give us the flexibility as we go through the rest of the year with our budgets. So with that said, we have the HRA levy first. The statutory levy limit for the HRA is $204,416, but the HRA board is only requesting $200,000 for their 2021 levy. And just as a note, the statutory levy limit is based on a percentage of the city's estimated market value. And that market value is just a little over 1.1 billion for 2020. So this levy request of the board, 200,000, that represents about a 3.6% increase over the 2020 levy of a little under 193,000. So tonight I ask that you approve the 2021 preliminary tax levy for the HRA in the amount of 200,000.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad to approve. Any other discussion? Roll call, Mary,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
aye, motion carries. We have the Economic Development Authority, is that the same, that's under the same resolution, right?
Separate resolution number 1513.
I must have got cut off here. Okay.
Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, sorry. Yep, similar to the HRA, the EDA's levy does have a statutory limit based on the city's estimated market value. That statutory levy limit for 2021 is $200,325, and that is what the EDA board is requesting at this point for their 2021 levy. So I guess tonight I'll ask that you approve their preliminary 2021 levy in the amount of $200,325.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it. Motion by Chad, second by myself to approve. Any other discussion? Roll call, Mary,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
aye, motion carries. All right, we have resolution number 15214, resolution approving the general fund and debt service fund preliminary 2020 tax levy.
All right, the levy request in front of you tonight is basically the same budget that was presented back on September 8th by Matt Yonick in our budget workshop. The general fund budget is currently balanced with a 5.6% tax levy increase. The debt service fund requires no tax levy increase at this point since we're at our target levy of 2.2 million. This results in a city tax levy of about 3.9%. And then when we factor in our HRA and EDA levies, the total tax levy for the city is at 4%.
Mayor and
Cities
Council,
have
I have put the various different levies up on the screen for you.
So it's 5.9% general fund. I think you said 5.6.
Yeah, we have that tax abatement that's actually within the general fund as well. So
Gotcha.
showing this separately, our operations for the general fund went up 5.9. However, the tax abatement went down, giving us the net of 5.6. And this sheet we're looking at tonight has the correct levy in for the HRA. I apologize for the error in the packet, but it is 200,000 for the HRA. So then that brings us down to a total tax levy increase of 4% when we factor in the EDA and HRA. So the one item that did change from our budget workshop was our tax capacity. We had estimated that it would increase about 4%. And unfortunately, the timing of receiving this information from the county doesn't always match up with our workshops. So the information we did receive from the county last week actually showed a 6.4% increase in our tax capacity or our tax base. So that's good news. The higher tax capacity results in another year of declining tax rate for the city, no matter which scenario we look at under the tax impact sheet. I don't know if you can throw that up on the screen, Matt.
Yeah, Andy, I'm looking forward to here. I'll get it up there.
Okay, yep. So as you recall, we have several options. Option number one that we'll see shortly is reflects a 0% levy increase. And essentially, with the estimated increase in the residential home value, our increase in the tax capacity basically offsets that increased home value, resulting in essentially a 0% tax change for the city tax, based on this set of assumptions that's within my tax impact sheet. As we look at our current option number 4 to the far right, that's what we're looking at with our proposed budget, the 5.6% levy increase. And you can see the tax rate kind of in the middle of the page. At the end of 2021, end of 2020, our tax rate is 66.473%. That tax rate will decline under all these scenarios just simply because our tax base grew at a faster rate than our tax levy. So under option 4, we'd actually see about a 1.66% decrease in our tax rate based on the information from the county. As we follow that down to see the impact on the median home value, the median home would be seeing about a $36 increase in city taxes over what they paid in 2020, roughly a 3.8% increase. So this is just a little bit different than what you saw at the budget workshop a couple of weeks ago. And then just a note on the debt service tax levy, as I mentioned earlier, it's remaining flat. It's at that $2.2 million target per our debt management policy or plan. We won't see any increases until 2023. Then we should have some moderate increases each year, starting in 2023 until we reach our new target in 2032. And that new target is about $2.6 million. If you recall, back in 2016, we increased that target just simply to increase our project costs as we dealt with rising costs in construction and whatnot. So the good news is we won't be seeing debt increases for a few years yet, 2023. So at this point, that's all I had for you guys, unless you have some questions or need clarification.
I guess it's just a comment, at the workshop, we talked about maybe paying for some one-time expenses out of the general fund reserves, and that was about 50,000 that kind of jumped out from that possibility. But if we did that, that would lower the levy from that 3.9 to 3.4 and would drop the tax rate another 0.5%, so like 64.4, a little under that actually. So, and then from that same residence, it would drop it another $7. So a little bit less of an increase there too. So some possibilities, and maybe there's some other things too that we can do.
Yeah, it's still early in the process. I know it seems we're here in middle of September, but the time will go fast, but we still have a lot of work on the budgets. Matt and I will be meeting with these department heads in October, November to go through their budgets in much more detail. So that's usually when we see some room for expense reductions or revenue increases and whatnot. So yeah, we'll be managing this budget over the next couple months and hopefully bring it down, bring that tax levy down a little bit. The one unknown too is our enrollment into the health premiums or health benefits. Open enrollment will occur in, I believe, early November. So that's always kind of an area that we're always unsure of who's going to come on to our plan and who's going to leave our plan. So that could also present us with some expense or savings in November based on open enrollment.
Anything else for Andy? motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Mary to approve resolution number 15214. Any other discussion? All in favor? Mary, roll call.
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
aye, motion carries. Setting truth and taxation hearing for December 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m.
Mayor and council, one of the other requirements outside of setting the preliminary levies is to set the date and time of our truth and taxation hearing. We proposed December 3rd, which I believe is the first Thursday in December. I believe the county has set theirs for December 1st, and the school district has set theirs for, I think, December 14th. So we shouldn't be in conflict with either one of those truth and taxation hearings, and then it's set before our first meeting in December, which is usually a continuation based off of any feedback that we may get. So I'd ask you to consider that date for setting the truth and taxation hearing.
So right now, do you foresee it as being virtual? I mean, obviously, if people from the public want to come into City Hall, then they have that option.
Yeah, I would anticipate at this time, unless the council would prefer to have it in person, we could always look at relocating that venue to something like the event center. Obviously, we know there's struggles of being able to present that to the public, but as we've seen, even when we've had our council meetings, well, you guys may not be face to face, the public is still as welcome to come and participate in that within the council chambers. And so I think what we would probably do is just open up those back doors to where we'd be able to ensure that there is enough space here, depending on what we have for participation. And we've got that TV screen in the lobby too that we'd be able to broadcast. So at this point, I would, the plan would be to have it in the council chambers where the public could still participate in that.
Motion to set that date and time, December
Second.
3rd at 6 o'clock.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Dave to set the truth and taxation meeting. Any other discussion? All in favor? Mary, roll call.
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
aye, motion carries. All right, governance, we have minutes, reports from committees, boards, or commissions. We have Hutchinson Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board minutes from August 18th, 2020. Planning Commission minutes from August 18th, 2020. City of Hutchinson Financial Report and Investment Report for August 2020. Do we have, does Chief Gipperson have anything for us? I seen him there.
He doesn't have anything for the council.
All right, is Tim still there, or Tom, or?
Nope, all you've got is either Mark or myself, so.
Well, I know Mark's got a lot to say, so let's go to Mark. What's Mark got for us?
Nothing tonight, so.
All right, Dave, let's start with you.
That's a good place to start because I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Steve?
Just a question. Last night around 9:10, there was just a really loud noise. It sounded like a jet of some kind taking off, or any idea what that was? I just assumed it must be something from the airport. But did anybody else hear that?
That was actually a jet private jet that flew over yesterday afternoon, so I don't know. I'm sure they were landing, they'd come over the shop, I seen them, and it was like in the flight path to land, so they probably took off at that time. So I'm sure that, they flew right over your house.
It was amazing how loud it was.
I
Like a
saw
fighter
them.
jet or something.
Yes, it was loud. I saw it.
Well, I was just hoping to be in UFO, so that would get everyone talking in town, so.
Build one of those hot air balloons. Anything else, Steve? All right, Mary.
Well, I don't have anything except for, the library has a lot of digital things that you can do online. So check out their website. It's www.hutchinson.lib.min.us. And there's lots of good programs out there for kids. So check it out. They're working hard to make this COVID as good as you can being virtual. So that's it for me.
All right, Chad, you're up.
I just wanted to note how great the new pavement is south of Fifth Avenue. I drive it very often, considering where I live and work, and it's like glass compared to what it was before. So that'll be a welcome improvement for the community. That's all I had tonight.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, that just made me think, and I was going to mention it when Kent was here, but with the Main Street and that colored strip, and I think if you look at it, there's just a little slight decline down to the curb with that. And when I saw that, I was just thankful that we widened the sidewalk. Maybe pass that on to Kent, but I know in Gaylord, when they had a similar project, they have a pretty steep drop off on that edge down to the curb. And again, that's what was referenced as one of the reasons, with the ADA requirements, that widening that sidewalk really helped with that. So just wanted to note that, and Matt, if you want to pass that on to Kent too. It worked out well. That's it.
All right, thanks, Steve. Matt, you're up.
Just a couple of things. I know we've had a lot of phone calls, but absentee voting has started. It started on Friday. And you can vote here at City Center. That's from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So just wanted to get that out. Like I said, we put that out on social media. Obviously say it here again tonight, but I know we're getting a lot of phone calls on it. But yes, you can absentee vote here at City Center from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. I know Mary and Gary, I'm not sure if you saw the email today, but the meeting that we had scheduled for Thursday has been postponed. And that'll get rescheduled likely in later October. And then just another quick reminder that the fall cleanup is this Saturday throughout town. So you're allowed to put out 2 items, hard good electronics or whatever for the fall cleanup. And that's it.
All right, thanks, Matt. Everybody, just enjoy the weather. And I seen people out raking already, so they're getting ramped up for the leaf pickup. So just be patient, and they're going to start doing it. So, but with that, we can adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Chad to adjourn. Roll call, Mary.
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Steve.
Hi.
Dave.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Night, everyone.